Hi everybody, I'm Phil Fatica, and welcome to the Milk Creek Government Channel. It's Channel 9, and we are back, and we are brand new, and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to be talking with two gentlemen who head up the Erie County United Way. On your left is R.J. Zona. R.J. has been around town for quite a while. Everybody knows who R.J. is, and he is the Senior Vice President of the United Way. On your right is Bill Jackson. He too has been around town for a while, and he is the President of the United Way of Erie County. Gentlemen, thank you for coming up and joining us. Two great people who know a great deal about the United Way just for you. I think it's fair to say, and we discussed this off camera, that the United Way that you have today is not your United Way of your uncle or your father or your grandfather. There have been enormous seismic changes with the United Way. Bill, you're the chief cook and bottle washer. What's changed? What's been going on?
Where do I begin?
Yes, that's about right.
Well, I'll tell you where I begin is the fact that this year we're celebrating our 100th year of serving Erie County. This fall we'll kick off our 100th campaign. And through the vast majority of that history, we've had a fairly simple business plan, which is to go out every year into the community, raise as much money as we can, and then turn around and invest that money into programs and services that help people here in Erie County. And we could spend the whole show talking about successes and people's lives that have been helped.
Sure.
But a couple of years ago, our board looked at the community and said, despite all of that good work by a lot of good people, we still have too many kids living in poverty in this community. At that time, it was over 15,000 children in Erie County living in poverty. So our board said, clearly we need to do something differently. And what they did was kind of the light bulb going on. They said, you know, instead of starting with the money and seeing how far we can make it go, we need to start with the issue, poverty, and then do everything we can, which of course includes raising as much money as we can, but also mobilizing volunteers, engaging in public advocacy, convening, everything that we can do, and get the entire community behind it to put a dent in those numbers. And so therefore, everything we've done since then is in line with that, and that's really what we'd like to talk about today.
Yeah, okay. Not only poverty are they wrapping their arms around, but books and free taxes too. RJ, you get the books and the free taxes.
Excellent.
Because we have so much here, we could go for days.
Well, we looked into this Dolly Parton Imagination Library because as we battle poverty, the way out of poverty is through education. We spend a lot of time and money and resources investing in early education. But we heard about a partnership nationally between United Way and the Dolly Parton Imagination Library. So we did some due diligence and talked to the folks from the Imagination Library, and talked to other United Ways who were working with it, and found that it helped prepare kids for kindergarten. It helped increase third grade reading scores, high school graduation rates. So we were very interested in bringing that to our community. We announced it at our annual meeting last May. And what this program does is provides a free, age-appropriate, high-quality book mailed to the home of any child in Erie County between the ages of 0 and 5 who registers. Now, we have 17,000 children in Erie County who are between 0 and 5. And we announced this program at our annual meeting in May. And since that time, in a very short time, we've signed up 7,000 children in Erie County who are getting that book mailed to their home in the child's name every single month.
That's amazing.
It is,
but
amazing. What's great about it, we don't want that book going home and being put under the shaky table so it doesn't wobble anymore. We want those books read.
Right.
So we combined it with a Reading Buddy program. Dr. Julie Woolman from Edinburgh University is heading that up, training trainers to go out into these communities, especially low-income neighborhoods, to work with these parents who may have to deal with literacy issues of their own, to make sure that they are completely and fully engaging their children in reading these books. And we know it's going to have an impact as these kids enter kindergarten. It's going to have an impact 5, 10, and 15 years down the road.
Readers for life.
Yes,
Readers for life.
Exactly.
Because all of us know that's true. It's sometimes hard to tell that to people who are 8, 9, 10, or even 15 or 22 or 25, that you will be a reader for life. The free taxes is a little bit something newer than the reading. You want to touch on that just for a moment?
Sure. This is a program that was kind of started by the Erie Community Foundation. We've kind of taken over the operation of it. And what it does is helps individuals prepare their taxes for free through volunteers. Last year, almost 4,000 individuals in Erie County. To make sure if they qualify, they get that earned income tax credit. Now, this was created by the federal government. It is the #1 anti-poverty tool in our country. To make sure if they qualify, they get that, to prepare their taxes for free, saving them a couple $100 there, and then to make sure we bring back that tax credit and provided millions of dollars in refunds that come back to this community money that can help people make ends meet, but also money that's going to be spent locally. So what we're trying to do, and we'll talk, I think, a little bit later about our goal of Live United 2025, which is to cut the number of families who can't make ends meet by a third by the year 2025.
I'm looking at your community impact report, and it's exactly saying that, to Live United by 2025. We all know that for the last year or so, we've been bombarded with the amount of poverty statistics that we live with here. And your goal is to do this, if I'm correct, to reducing poverty by investing in education. Is that correct?
Education, financial stability, and health. We think those are the three building blocks to a good life.
Let's take them one at a time.
Yeah,
education.
Sure. Yeah, and as RJ started to talk about that, education is really the key. And what we did was we asked a group of experts in the field to tell us what are the milestones that a child, a youth, needs to hit in order to be successful later on in life, the educational milestones. And they told us that kids need to be ready for kindergarten. They need to be reading at grade level by third grade. They need to be connected to their school and have hope for their future. They need to have career awareness, starting from kindergarten, what do you want to be when you grow up, to an 8th grader having enough exposure to different careers that they have an intelligent way of deciding what kind of classes to take in high school. And then that they graduate from high school on time with some kind of a career plan, which might mean going to college, it might mean, trade or certification or military. And they have the soft skills necessary. Employers are telling us, and colleges are telling us, kids are coming out of high school and they don't know how to study, they don't know how to show up on time, work as a team, those kinds of issues.
Yeah, that's important. I'm glad you said that, soft skills, because people thought always, what do you mean by soft skills? It means coming to work. Yeah, and coming to work on time. Yeah, and not asking for Friday off because you worked Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday and you're just exhausted. Yeah. I don't mean to make light of that. That's very important. Yes. Okay, that's education. What about income?
Income is our shorthand term for financial stability. And what we're talking about there is that families have the information they need to be able to protect their income, stay away from fraudulent loans and those kinds of things. They can live within a budget. That the money that they make, they know what to do with it. They can get without having to live day to day, moment to moment. Job training so they can qualify for better jobs. Those kinds of things.
Okay, and the last one, health.
Health, in general, without health, the other two don't really mean anything. But very specifically, what we mean are health issues that prevent people from obtaining education or employment. And we're just now in the process of really fleshing that out. But later this year, we'll be making some funding decisions and allocating dollars to programs that meet those criteria.
Okay. Now, in order for this to work, it goes without saying, obviously, that you need money. You need something to push this forward. So this is where you come in, because it's not unfair to say that they're here today to also tell you that your dollars go a long way, and that this is how you spend them. So you got 4 days to discuss that any way you'd like.
RJ, you're the...
Well, as Bill said, for 100 years, that was how people knew UnitedWay, the annual giving campaign. I gave at the office, that kind of thing. And it worked very efficiently and very effectively. We need everybody to participate. And the great tool that we have is payroll deduction. The ability for somebody to sign a pledge form and have a little bit of money taken out every week or every other week of their paycheck.
Right.
We know that somebody can give to an individual charity a lot more if they can do it over time. I don't have $150 in my pocket right now, but I can give you $2.50 a week or $3 a week or $6 a week. I can do it that way. When you look at it and you cut it down to that small amount, maybe that's a cup of coffee, or it's a pizza, or it's a night out, or it's a night at the movies, or something, some small sacrifice you can make. And what's great about UnitedWay and all of our donors, and we have tens of thousands of donors, both individually and corporately, when you move all that money together, you can accomplish great things. An individual can only do so much with their contribution of $150 or $500 or $1,000. But we combine those thousands of individuals together. We can reduce poverty. We can help more families become self-sufficient over time. And what Bill and I think, are most proud of is the strategic direction we've undertaken. Like, we've done so much over 100 years, a lot of good people doing a lot of good things. But now we are working collaboratively with private industry, with government, with education, with individual donors, so that collectively we can accomplish more as a group than any single one of us can on our own.
Yeah, I like that word collaboratively that you're using, and I'm looking through your booklet here, and I'm seeing the statistics that you gather here. We didn't get there overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. Is there any one or single contributing factors toward the poverty issue? I mean, I know it's huge, but can you elicit some of them? Just simply poor skills, no lack of education, quitting education, single parents. I don't know. I know, again, that's another 4 days to discuss this, because there's vital signs that are out there have identified some of these causes, and then how to get rid of them. It's all yours for AJ and I will go out for 4 days. Just keep on going.
Well, you know, you could put your finger on any particular point in the life cycle. You can say, all right, we have to make sure kids are ready for kindergarten.
Yeah.
But then you can say, well, wait, we need to make sure that they're born healthy. Sure. So in those first 5 years, which are the most critical, that they have the stimulation that they need, that they get the love and the upbringing that makes such a difference. But then you go back to, okay, that goes back to their parents. Now we start to talk about prenatal care. And, you know, so there really is no one particular point that you say that's the root of it. Okay. But we have to start somewhere. And what we've chosen to do at UnitedWay is to say, if we can have more of those kids ready for kindergarten and then those other milestones I mentioned, if you think about it, if by the year 2025, substantially all of our kids met those milestones, and that's not happening right now. You know, we have a long way to go. When we transform this community so that substantially all of our kids meet those milestones, that's going to make a really big difference, and that's going to be the thing that, you know, going forward, they'll do a better job of raising their children, and it'll, you know, reverse that trend. It's going to take all of us, though. You know, UnitedWay can't do it alone. This is a community-wide effort, and that's why it's a call to action for the entire community.
Yeah, and who are your partners in this that are helping you do this? Because I notice there are a lot of names in your booklet here, especially Big Brothers, Big Sisters, Erie Together, parents, teachers. I mean, just list them. You can just enumerate a few of them more if you want, please.
Sure. Well, you know, again, starting with that early start, you have organizations like the Y, which provides quality early care to kids throughout Erie County, and Early Connections as well. And this past year, we brought on St. Martin's Center and the International Institute. We're also doing some work with the Union City Family Support Center. You know, we are the UnitedWay of Erie County. We touch people all over the county. And in fact, we wanted to mention that, you know, RJ talked about the Imagination Library. 45% of the children between the ages of 0 and 5 in Mill Creek Township are signed up for the Imagination Library. So, you know, just as an example for your viewers to be able to relate to. So, you know, when you put all that together, you know, we talk about not only the organizations that we work with in terms of funding, but also you mentioned Erie Together, which is not about money. It's about aligning resources. It's about people working together differently in ways that they didn't before. Rather than, you know, you helping that person and RJ helps that person, if we get together, we can help 10 people and in a much better way. It's that kind of philosophy.
Yeah. AJ, anytime you want to hop in, just, you know, don't hold back.
Well, you know, as Bill mentioned about early education, and that's near and dear to my heart as I have 2 young children, 14 and 9. And I've seen it firsthand, what happens to a child who has that quality start 0 to 5 in life. You know, the more we learn about brain development, the more we know that 90% of brain development happens by the time kids are become 6 years old. 90% of that hardwiring of our brain. I was very fortunate that my kids had that quality early learning, and it became apparent to me in this little story that I'll tell you. Dr. Barker, who was then superintendent of our Erie school districts, was speaking at our annual meeting when my oldest, Isabella, was 5 years old and about to enter kindergarten. He told us at our annual meeting that about 40%, almost half of the kids they get every single year in the Erie school district when they open their doors and arrive at kindergarten, half of those kids come there and can't recognize consistently their numbers, their letters, and their colors as they enter school.
Right.
Now that night, I'm at home around the table having a conversation with my family, having a discussion, trying to get our arms around a problem, can't figure it out. And my 5-year-old Isabella says, "Dad, why don't you just Google it?"
Yeah.
And I looked at her in astonishment. I said, "You're 5 years old, Bella.
Right.
What do you know about Google?" Well, at school, they put us on computers. They talk to us about a search engine. And if you type in a question, it can help lead you to the right answer. And that's when it hit me. I mean, here's a 5-year-old talking about search engines on the internet. Well, 5-year-olds who grow up in poverty are having trouble recognizing their numbers,
Colors,
their shapes,
numbers.
and their colors.
Yeah.
What a disparity. And that angered me and made me sad. And I'm so glad UnitedWay and others are committed to providing those resources. Every child in our community, and there's 17,000 kids between 0 and 5, every single one of those 17,000 should have that same opportunity to have those resources put in front of them so they arrive at kindergarten ready to learn. And if that happens, we know that they will have a better chance to read proficiently by 3rd grade, have a better chance to graduate on time, will make more money in their lifetime, and will have a better chance to avoid risky behaviors, drug abuse, alcohol abuse, teen pregnancy, if they have that quality start. Now, you and I and Bill are old enough to remember the Fram commercial. You can pay me now, or you can pay me later.
Right.
So we can start investing more money in quality early education, or we can start building more prisons. Which way do you want to go?
How are you measuring this as you go along? I hear what you're saying, and I'm on board with this 100%. What are your metrics for using to measurement for your successes or your, that didn't work well, we need to backtrack and do this right away because that is just, we're just treading water here? How are you going to define that?
Well, every program that we fund has their specific outcomes that they report to us every 6 months, so we can keep our finger on that pulse. But then you've got, the sort of the measures that we're looking at very long term. We talk about vital signs. If you go to Erie Vital Signs, you can look at statistics like 3rd grade reading and poverty levels and those kinds of things. The problem is those take years to be able to move the needle on. So you need some things in between those two things, in between what did we do today to help somebody and what effect is that going to have 10 years down the road. And those are the kind of indicators that we're actually working on. That's our next step for our committees, is to say, okay, what are we going to look at 3 years from now to know that we've made a difference?
We have, as of late, there's been a big push toward having people who are somewhat retired become volunteers. Does that enter into your vision, the volunteerism associated with this?
Yes, absolutely. In fact, one of the other new things that we did as part of our strategic plan was, in cooperation with a nonprofit partnership, we launched Get Connected, which is a volunteer website where people who want to volunteer can look for volunteer opportunities posted by nonprofit organizations.
And do you have that website? What is it?
Yeah, it's Get Connected Erie. Is it .com or .org?
.org.
.org.
You can find it on UnitedWayErie.org.
Okay,
Yeah,
so you can find it under your website too.
Sure.
Okay.
Yeah, go to
and so you're
volunteer.
looking for those people who have those skills to say, we need your skills, we need your talents, we need your experience, we need you to help us. And you're asking for community involvement beyond just the money and the other people you have.
Right, and then you talked about the fact that you look at retirees. Sometimes people think of volunteer opportunities as a one-day, help paint something or clean up the yard kind of a thing. But especially with the financial pressure that nonprofits are under, with declining grants and government funding and just the general economic situation, they find themselves under pressure to not be able to have the staff that they need to do the jobs that need to be done. So you can have a retired marketing person or an attorney or an accountant who might want to donate time not just to come in and help paint a room, but actually to design a marketing plan or put together some kind of a legal strategy, something over time. So we're looking at that higher level volunteerism, and that's something that we and the nonprofit partnership are actively promoting.
Other communities beside Erie and under your leadership, are they doing the same thing as you're doing, or is this unique to Erie by you actually taking the bull by the horns and saying, we've got to stop this, and what we've been doing doesn't work anymore. We need to change our paradigms. Other counties, communities, regions? Yes,
we've looked at some other examples, and what's interesting is, while we're not the first to do this, we have other communities who are looking at us and calling us and saying, how are you doing that? But we certainly got inspiration and information from some other communities. We worked with a consultant who works with a lot of UnitedWays all over the country, and one of the things he did was we did some research of our donors a few years ago, about 3 years ago, and one of the questions we asked them is, can you name an issue that UnitedWay of Erie County is addressing? And over 40%, almost half of those people giving us money, could not name a single issue. And our consultant said, that is not unusual. UnitedWays have that problem all over because you do so many different things, it's hard for people to focus in on one. This past year, we surveyed our donors again, asked that same question, and only 8% could not name an issue, and 2/3 of them named poverty as the issue. And then in talking with donors, they're telling us, I have a much better idea where my money's going now that I understand what you're doing, and I'm much more excited to give. I don't just give because it's the thing to do. I know why I'm giving. I know where my money's going, and I'm going to give more.
The Erie Community Foundation asks people to donate, and you can specifically say, I want my money to go to A, not B. Can you do that with you people? Can you say, I'm going to give you $1,000, and AJ's going to take this one, and here's where I want it to go?
Because we call that designation.
Okay.
And there are some United Ways who are very heavy or have their contributions designated. We do not do that. We have a very low designation rate.
Okay.
Because what we do is provide experts in the field to look at the programs we fund to make sure they're efficient and effective, non-duplicative, and making an impact, and that's where we put our money. So we've done the homework that people really don't have the time or energy or wherewithal to do when they make a charitable contribution. So though we do permit designation, we do not promote that, because we believe we have strategically put together the most important and critical group of agencies to fund to move the needle on self-sufficiency and poverty. There are many United Ways that have half of their campaign designated. I'm just going to use United Way as a means to send my money there, to go to maybe a volunteer fire department or my college or this organization or that health organization, all doing good things. But there's no way you can have community impact unless you're all in it together. And that's why United Way was created. And I'll tell you another quick story. Al Messina, who runs the Boys and Girls Club.
Yes.
And I said, we brought our agency directors together a number of years ago to talk about this issue. And I said, what would you tell somebody who wanted to designate their money to the Boys and Girls Club, Al? And he said, I would ask them to do it outside of the United Way campaign. Because United Way was created to do the most good for the most people. And when you want to have community impact, when you want to change a community condition such as poverty or self-sufficiency, we need everybody in it together. And United Way was not created as a mechanism for you to designate your charitable dollars here or there. Though we understand that. We all, I'm sure Bill does, I know I do, we give money to our church, we give money to other charities outside of United Way, but we don't utilize the United Way campaign to do that.
This is, I don't mean this to be a difficult question. Yeah, I do mean a difficult question. How did we get in this hole? How did this all just simply go south? How did we get so poverty-laden? How did we get so poor? How did we get so unhealthy? You got 9 years for that.
Yeah, that is definitely a tough question. And that is something, we struggle with. As you said, it took us a long time to get into this position, and to pick one or two things. It really is probably that combination of the fact that when you look at the economy and you go all the way back to the Industrial Revolution, and then you take it through where we are today, we've had a pretty seismic shift in that kind of social contract. My dad worked at GE for over 40 years, and
retired.
And he retired
and
from
happy.
GE. Exactly.
Well, maybe.
Well, yes.
Well,
no, I mean, he was, he had a good retirement. And that was common. And, when I grew up, I was kind of expecting that that's what life was like. And as everyone knows, that's changed dramatically, and not through anyone's fault. It's just, we've had that shift in that economic environment. So it used to be that a kid could go to high school, graduate, and get a good family-sustaining job. It's not that way anymore, and I don't think that our social structures have adjusted to that as much as they need to. So it's going to be a game of catch-up.
The technology seems to enter into these people's lives. It's ever-changing, it's exponential, it leaps over itself so rapidly, and it certainly is, from my perspective of teaching, that they're just really more important things in life than education. I mean, I know I'm bound for the NBA or the NFL because I'm just the best player in the neighborhood. Is the technology, you think, part of the problem and part of the solution? It's there, but it seems to be sort of a panacea to some groups that says, well, if I have the iPhone 5 and I have the new tablet, that life is good and I don't have to worry about going to school because I can Google it, So I don't know. Does technology you ever bump into that as a question that says, it's working against us?
Certainly that comes up, but I think the counterpoint, and you mentioned it, is how can we make technology work for us. And the number of examples of that. One thing I'd like to mention is, you talked about who are we partnering with, and we're more and more now partnering with school districts, who are organizations that we didn't even talk to in the past, and now we're in very constant communication.
The ancient father's Oldsmobile.
That's
anymore.
right.
Or Buick, yes, I'm not sure.
And just to give you an example, the Girard School District is just this year bringing on, it's a technology-based system and program, but it specifically, through research, has shown to help a very high percentage of kids hit that third grade reading target.
Right.
And so we, through our connections, national organization has come in and is working with Girard, and it's kind of a pilot program, but if we see the results that we expect, this is something that then can be expanded throughout Erie County, and that's the way that when you talk about making progress, big-time measurable progress, that's one of the ways that we need to do it.
Again, on your left is R.J. Zona. He's the Senior Vice President for United Way of Erie County. And on your right is Bill Jackson. Mr. Jackson is the President of United Way of Erie County. And we're discussing education, income, health, all of the tentacles that the United Way in the last 7 years, 5 years, 10 years?
We've started talking about that probably about 5 or 6 years ago.
Yeah.
But,
pretty much new on the scene as to what you would think the United Way was and now is becoming. It's becoming a major player in these fields, and I congratulate you for doing that. We got a couple of minutes left. It's a toss-up question, RJ or Bill or both of you. Sum it up for us, RJ, and we'll let your boss have the last word.
Absolutely. Well, I think the two words that I want to leave everybody are collaboration and strategy. We are collaborating with organizations well beyond just those that we fund. Government, labor, education, private industry. All of us have to be pulling the boat in the same direction if we're going to move Erie out of the extreme rates of poverty that we've seen. We all have to do it together, and there has to be a strategy. And that's why we appreciate Erie Community Foundation and Vital Signs, so it gives us a roadmap of where we want to go, and we have a strategic direction. So that's the two things that I think are much different that people would not think of when they think of United Way. It's not just an umbrella organization of member agencies anymore. We collaborate with hundreds of different organizations, and we are very strategic in where we want to take this community.
Bill? All yours.
Yeah, just wanted to mention that one leftover from Your Father's United Way, we still do fund safety net services, disaster services at Red Cross, homeless shelters, domestic violence shelters. That's still part of the mix, because that can happen to anybody regardless of your economic situation. So that is still there, but the laser focus going forward is on education, income, and health.
Can't thank you enough. RJ, Bill, thanks for giving us your time, and thanks for telling the good people out there about the United Way and the good deeds it does. You can find them at unitedway.org.
United Way Erie.
unitedwayerie.org. Thanks for being with us. I'm Phil Fatica. Until we see you next time, take care.
You're watching the Mill Creek Government Channel, powered by WQLN Public Media.